So you're probably all aware of the Fatboy Slim incident in 2002, where 30,000 were expected, but 250,000 arrived. You would have thought that they would have learned from this particular type of situation, since it's one that we talk about in lectures and crowd safety. Since that particular time. Now, the issue they have, of course, is that they're arriving by train, so that the system is asymmetrical. They're coming in at train loads over a long period of time, but when the event finishes, they all leave at once. So you need to understand that a system may well work one way, but it may fail in the opposite direction. And what we saw in 2018 was the following. And of course the press reports maybe have blown this a little bit out of proportion. One attendee stated they'd never felt as unsafe as they had during the 57,000 strong event. So the passengers calling it mayhem, Twitter, social media propagating the chaos that was amassed around the stations, leaving, people complaining of being crushed. Leaving the site was fine, crush at the station, potentially deadly. Now, these are very emotive words, and we're going to talk about language in the next section of this talk. But unfortunately, the police tend to pick up the responsibility for these issues, or rather the blame for it. But it's a planning exercise. So again, understanding how crowds migrate to and from. And we see the same effect. I mean, we're still recording. In fact, sadly, every time I seem to produce my updated list, there's another one to add to it. So it's typically been a question of, do I need another set of slides for this? It used to be I could contain it on one slide, was highlighting the majority. Now it's onto two sets of slides, and it's looking as if I might need to introduce a third. So this is just a consistent problem from Hillsborough and Love Parade. You would have thought that the industry had learned its lesson, that situations would be improved, and yet just last year we saw this incident at Celtic Park in Scotland. Where people were, I think 5 were injured in that incident, which had led to a review of Scottish policing, which we'll come to in a second. Now, the early reports of that incident said that the police had cordoned off a section of London Road to allow the range of support. So we got a management failure here. It stated then hundreds of people were caught in a two-way crash. And later in that report it said there were thousands of people trying to get from east to west at the same time. Thousands were trying to get from west to east. Now let's have a look at the fundamental geometry of that particular site. So there's the North Stand, turnstiles 14 to 31, crowds coming in from direction 1 and again in from direction 2. Simultaneously, 2 crowds converging on an area which is about 7 meters wide. If we have a look at it from ground level, here's the approach from 1, and as we can see, this is just a large funnel. So as people get towards the nose of the funnel there, the area is getting narrower and narrower, and hence density is increasing. Similarly, from the opposite direction, east to west and west to east, we see the same sort of approach angle. Now again, in both of these instances, they should have recognized that whenever you've got a large crowd moving into that space, density is going to increase, flow is going to reduce, crushing is inevitable in these kind of circumstances. And if you've got a two-way flow, it'll be impossible to unwind that pressure. And this had all the earmarks of a potential failure, a serious injury to be occurred. 5 people injured in this particular instance. It could have been worse. And in fact, I was asked to go up and visit the site, which I did just a few days after it, and it was front page in the Sunday Mail. Again, the press do love to glamorize these particular situations. However, the result from this was that it led to a review of policing in Scotland, which we will look at in the next section. But what are the fundamentals? What's actually in there at the moment? Well, of course, we've got European guidance for spectator facilities. We've got the UK Guide to Safety at Sports Grounds, the Green Guide, now in its 6th edition. So we were critical of this in the past because it didn't incorporate the relationship between density and flow, but it has been significantly enhanced since then. So let's have a quick look at the current guidance in this kind of environment.